Let's start with the basics. If we have to define what memory means, the simplest way to put it is that memories are the way in which our brains learn about the world around us, store that information, and retrieve it as necessary. They're not just important for our day-to-day function. Memories also influence how we make decisions, are critical for our sense of self, and how we interact with the world. Neuroscientists often divide long-term memories into two main types: explicit and implicit. Explicit memories are like conscious recollection of events, facts, or concepts, and they involve structures in the brain called the hippocampus and the surrounding regions. Implicit memories, on the other hand, are more about skills and habits, like riding a bike or playing a musical instrument. These involve a different region in the brain, two of them in fact, called the cerebellum and the amygdala. Neuroscientists are often asked why we forget sometimes. It seems so frustrating. This is a topic that has occupied generations of neuroscientists. There are few aspects to this seemingly straightforward question. Our best understanding of forgetting really comes from studying how animals learn and unlearn associations, because their brains operate in a very similar fashion as ours. In experiments where, let's say, the ringing of the bell was associated with a reward, like a Fruit Loop, then most animals learn that very quickly. So the next time you ring a bell, you have their attention, and they might be hovering around the Fruit Loop door expectantly. Now, an extension of this experiment is called extinction learning, where subsequent to having learned the association, if the ringing of the bell is presented repeatedly, without the Fruit Loops this time, then the animal soon stops paying attention to the bell. While it may appear that the animal has unlearned or forgotten the association, it's more accurate to say that a new memory is formed, which is overriding the original one. That is why sometimes we spontaneously see remissions of the old memory in these animals. This suggests that the original memory still exists, but is less accessible than it was before. Moreover, it seems that we tend to forget information that our brains don't deem as important for the purpose of the task at hand or something which is emotionally relevant. For example, you might not remember what you had for breakfast 3 weeks ago on a Wednesday unless it was a particularly special occasion or a part of a special routine. Ultimately, the reasons for forgetting are multifaceted. You may wonder if the old memory you seem to have forgotten, is it really gone? It may not be. We tend to prioritize more recent and relevant information. That is why we might not remember what we had for breakfast 3 weeks ago, unless it was a particularly special occasion, like a breakfast shared with an old friend you haven't seen for a long time. Our brains prioritize emotionally relevant or important information for better storage. If you were to ask, do memories change over time? The answer is yes, they can, because our brains are constantly trying to make sense of the world around us. To paraphrase Hermann von Helmholtz, an influential thinker and scientist in the 18th century, our brains are geared as prediction machines that are constantly predicting outcomes. This involves filling in gaps and creating a narrative. So, our memories aren't a perfect recording of events we experience. They can be influenced by emotions, our biases, and even subsequent experiences. This is why eyewitness testimonies of events which happened years ago can sometimes be unreliable. For example, you and your childhood friend might remember the same episode you experienced differently, because each time we recall a memory, we are essentially reactivating it, which means it is malleable and it can change subtly over time. This highlights the inherent limitations of our memory and the importance of critical thinking when evaluating our own recollections and comparing it to those of others. A good way to think about the changes that may happen when we recall is that reconstruction is a natural part of memory formation and retrieval. So it's not necessarily a bad thing, as it is the process by which our brains adapt and learn from our experiences.